Last thing I want to bring up tonight is an article I saw in The Athletic, and I think
Oh,
many read.
yes.
Interview with Kris Bryant, former Cub legend, World Series champion, potentially one of the greatest at one point, one of the greatest careers in baseball history, as he was not only the college player of the year, he followed up the next year as minor league player of the year, made it to the majors and became rookie of the year, and followed that up with MVP and World Series champion. Probably the greatest 4 years of any young baseball player. I can't, no one's ever done it, so I don't think you could argue that. I was playing up the hype as much as I could on social media throughout those years, calling him Christ Bryant. He was clearly the second coming, the Messiah, bringer of another World Series finally to the Cubs, and he fucking did it. He did all those things. All that happened. And to see what has happened to him subsequently is puzzling, frustrating. We've questioned lots of things with Kris Bryant, and then when he eventually signed his 7-year, $182 million deal with the Colorado Rockies, kind of confirmed, or at least helped lead confirmation to speculation that people have had for a long time, is he just does not want the spotlight anymore. It's almost like he fell out of love with baseball because of the constant scrutiny in Chicago. Just he just left for a paycheck, and he signed with whatever team he could that was comfortable for him, that gave him millions and millions and millions of dollars. And this article, this interview with him, kind of confirmed all those things, which is, I don't know. I guess I don't know how to feel. It makes me kind of sad more than anything. Not to prove that we were right or that our speculation was right. I'd rather not hear that was true. But the whole article kind of bummed me out, which was strange. I've got a bunch of quotes here from it. The first part is he talks about the signing process and how he really didn't do his homework. He really just looked on the surface and just saw the biggest deal, 7-year, $182 million deal. He didn't really know much about the Colorado Rockies organization. Here's his quote. There were other teams interested, but I didn't want to wait around. It was a completely different situation for a lot of us free agents at the time. I guess I didn't do as much research into the prospects of the Rockies as I could have. Like he had no idea that they were a shitty organization. Or he just didn't care. It was just whatever team would give him the most money, he was just going to go to, because he's not really concerned with winning anymore. He got his championship and he's cashing in and checking out. There's more that actually corroborates that in the interview. He he said, as a player, it's an easier spot to be in Colorado, because you don't really have that outside pressure like the Dodgers are going to have. They they invest a lot of money into good players, so they have to go out there and win. For us, we can be someone that nobody talks about. That's like a benefit to him, just like he can be anonymous and not have to deal with any pressure. He literally just said there he doesn't care about winning. He just wants to not have pressure on him and just go out and play. The problem is he's barely played in his 2 years in Colorado. He's been crushed by injuries, but you kind of wonder about his work ethic, if he's really interested in staying healthy or getting healthy again and getting back on the field. He's only played in 122 games in the last 2 seasons. He broke his finger in 2023, and he's had back injuries plaguing him throughout. He's hit 15 home runs in 2 years, 45 RBI, 76 OPS plus in 2023. I mean, that is the opposite of what Kris Bryant was and how he got that reputation. He kind of goes back to the 2015 season, where there was all the acrimony about not bringing him up, service time manipulation the Cubs played. They called him up 2 weeks into the season so they could get one extra year of control over him, as 6 years is not as good as 7 years when you're in the Cubs' perspective. But he talked about, things that went along with that, was like the famous billboard which was just his face, and it said "worth the wait" on Addison between Clark and Sheffield. And he like says that bothered him. Like the pressure just from having a billboard there was just too much for him, even though he performed. He said about that, I didn't know about that billboard it was going to be up there, but if I did, I probably would have been like, let's not do that. Let's just go out there and play ball and let me be who I am. It's just like, I guess I understand that. Maybe it'd be kind of weird to see yourself on a billboard and before you've ever played a major league game and have all of that on your shoulders, but he dealt with it. I mean, he won. They went to the NLCS in 2015. He was a rookie of the year. They won the World Series in 2016. He won the MVP of the National League. And it's like now he doesn't even like baseball and he's just going through the motions to collect his paycheck. And it just, I don't know. It's just sad to me from to see him at those heights and to be the legend that he was, and to see where he is now. I don't know. It's hard to feel too bad for someone that's got millions of dollars in the bank and many millions more coming to him. He just doesn't seem happy necessarily, and he kind of feels like the way he's putting things, he feels powerless, and I think that's misguided and disingenuous. He controlled all of this. You know, he didn't do his research with the when he signed with the Rockies. He could have done that research. He could have put himself in any position. He could have been more active in how he was portrayed with the marketing department with the Cubs, but he didn't. You know, he was soaking it up. And now that he's in the position he's at, he's going talking, you know, that was a problem for him. So I just feel like he's acting like all these things were out of his control when they really were. So it's a frustrating article. It's a sad article. It's something I thought we should at least talk about, considering how much time we spent over the years talking about Kris Bryant. I mean, it feels like this is one of the last times we're ever going to talk about him, the way his career has spiraled.
He's done. You know,
well, I mean,
it's an interesting article. I mean, you would have thought when, you know, he's asked about the Cubs situation, it would have been a little more ceremonious, is maybe the word I'm looking for, or ceremonial. Like you ended the drought of a world championship. You took baseball by storm despite this pressure. But like the first quote of the article from him is like, well, I wish things would have went a little bit differently there. And it's like, really? What? Yeah. I mean, because there was a billboard and you put pressure and you, to your point, and everyone who saw it, you responded to it fine. You didn't break under the pressure.
It's kind of revisionist history.
Yeah.
I think it's revisionist history on his part. Like he's so beaten down by the sport that he just doesn't remember the joy or doesn't want to. So I don't know. And if that's the case, that's as sad as it gets.
It's interesting. You should read, I don't know if you saw it, but there's the Purple Row. It's the
5,280 feet.
The SB Nation, like.
Oh, purple. They're referencing the row of seats in the upper deck at Rockies Park. That's exactly 1 mile above sea level.
That's the SB Nation portion of the site that covers the Rockies. And
I didn't even know they did that.
The Skylar Timmons kind of dissected the Athletic article, and he did it in such a manner that he kind of puts onus not just on Bryant and saying his comments are, you know, kind of off-putting as a Rockies fan, but also he felt like when reading the article that the writer for the Athletic, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, I forgot that too.
Sam Blum.
Bad journalism on our part.
Sam Blum. Okay. That he put right here as a journal. This is Skylar SB Nation, Skylar Timmons. He says, and I read this article a little bit earlier today. He said, as a journalist, I've learned that context is everything. While reading Blum's article, something didn't mesh in my mind with what he was writing. In all honesty, it felt as if Blum did take some editorial liberties while interpreting Bryant's comments. Could he have asked some clarifying questions? Absolutely. Could Bryant also have considered his words more carefully? Definitely. So it seemed his interpretation of the article is that of reckless journalism to make a little bit more of a story out of something that may not be as big of a story. So I don't know.
That's very possible, but
Yeah.
it does confirm, or at least it plays into narratives that we've talked about or we've felt all along with Bryant
Oh,
being more concerned,
100%.
at least when he signed. So maybe that is bad journalism on the Athletics part to kind of steer the story that way, if that's the case. I could also see, a Rockies fan has a very different perspective reading that article than a Cubs fan does, with everything that happened for the Cubs and nothing has happened for the Rockies. It's much like a Cubs, if an article is written about Javi Baez and a Cubs fan is reading it versus a Tigers fan reading, they're very similar actually. So I happen to be both, so I can see both sides. But yeah, I mean, a Rockies fan has seen absolutely nothing out of this legend, so the
That's
frustration
true.
must
That's true.
be immense. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't seen that article, and it's good to hear from a Rockies perspective. And that's a very good point that I was kind of thinking of. I hadn't articulated it all, but that story, I'm wondering how happy or unhappy Kris Bryant is with how it actually came out, because that can easily be manipulated, just leaving out sections or not asking the right questions or just choosing to focus the article on one aspect and not others. So
Yeah.
one way or the other, I would check out the article at least, but
Yeah, definitely.
it's interesting. As with everything, I highly recommend the Athletic.
Word Hole Media.